You are sitting in a meeting right now. Someone is talking, maybe about targets, maybe about Q3 results, and you are nodding. You are present in body, but somewhere behind your eyes, you have already left. This is not the first time. And the strangest part is, you are not someone who gives up easily. You are someone who figures things out, someone people come to when things get complicated. So why does this room, this job, this version of your life feel like wearing someone else's clothes? That question has been sitting in your chest for a while now, and today we are going to actually look at it, because the answer is not what most people think. There is a specific kind of exhaustion that smart people carry. It is not physical. You can sleep 8 hours and still wake up feeling it. It is not laziness. You have proven that wrong 100 times. It is something quieter, a dullness that lives underneath the busyness. You go through the motions, you reply to emails, you show up, you even do the job well, sometimes very well. But there is a part of you that watches all of this from a distance, like you are performing a role in a play you never auditioned for. And the cruel part, you cannot explain it easily, because from the outside, everything looks fine. Good salary, maybe, stable position, reasonable hours. So when the thought rises, I do not want this anymore, you push it down, because what would you even say? I have everything I'm supposed to want and it still feels empty? That thought makes you feel ungrateful, irrational, broken. But you are none of those things. Here's what is actually happening. Psychologists who study motivation have found something consistent across decades of research. Human beings do not just need reward, they need meaning. They need to feel that what they are doing is connected to something they value. Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, in their self-determination theory, identified 3 core psychological needs that every human being carries: autonomy, the feeling that you are choosing your own actions; competence, the feeling that you are genuinely growing; and relatedness, the feeling that your work connects you to something larger than a paycheck. When these needs go unmet for a long time, the brain does not shut down, it adapts. It goes into a kind of low-power mode. You function, but you stop feeling alive in your functioning. And here's the important part. This adaptation is not weakness, it's intelligence. Your nervous system learned to reduce its investment in something that stopped returning meaning. That is not a flaw, that is your brain protecting you. But why do smart people specifically stay? This is where it gets psychologically interesting. High-ability individuals often develop something researchers call high behavioral inhibition. It means their brains are wired to analyze before acting, to model consequences, to see risks that others miss. This is exactly what makes them effective, and it's exactly what keeps them frozen. Every time the thought of leaving rises, the brain runs a simulation. What if the next thing is worse? What if I'm throwing away security for an illusion? What if I'm not actually good enough to build something different? The smarter you are, the more convincing that simulation becomes, because you're not imagining vague fears, you are imagining specific, detailed, realistic-sounding scenarios. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis, but it goes deeper than that. There's also something called the sunk cost effect, which lives in the orbitofrontal cortex, the part of your brain that tracks investment and loss. The longer you have been in a role, the more your brain calculates what leaving would cost, not just financially, emotionally, socially, identically. You have built a self-concept around this job. Even if you hate it, it's familiar, and the brain treats familiarity as safety, even when that familiar thing is slowly draining you. Think of it this way. Imagine you're hiking and you've been on the wrong trail for 2 hours. You know it's the wrong trail, but you've already walked 2 hours. And somewhere in your mind, a voice says, maybe if I keep going, I'll find where I'm meant to be. So you keep walking, not because the trail is right, because stopping feels like admitting those 2 hours were wasted. That's the sunk cost. The brain doesn't like writing off investments, and the smarter you are, the more elaborate your justification you build for staying on the wrong trail. There's also identity foreclosure, a concept from developmental psychology. It happens when a person stops exploring who they could be and locks their identity into a single role. After years in a job, your brain starts to answer the question, "Who am I?" with "I am my position," and threatening that position feels like threatening yourself. So you stay, not because you want to, but because leaving feels like a kind of self-destruction. Now, here's what actually helps. Not 10 steps, not a morning routine, a few psychological shifts that work with how the brain actually functions. The first is separating identity from role. Your brain has fused these two things, so the work is to consciously defuse them. Start asking yourself, not what do I do, but what do I value? What problems do I find genuinely interesting? What kind of thinking makes me feel alive? Researchers in narrative psychology, like Dan McAdams, found that the people who navigate major life transitions most successfully are those who can hold a coherent story about themselves that is bigger than any single job. When your identity is large enough, losing a role doesn't feel like losing yourself. The second shift is learning to distinguish security from meaning. Your brain treats them as the same thing. They are not. Security is external, salary, title, predictability. Meaning is internal, connection to values, growth, contribution. Many people sacrifice meaning for security and tell themselves it's a smart trade. But once basic needs are met, human beings are wired to seek something beyond survival. When meaning is absent long enough, even security starts to feel hollow. Ask yourself honestly, am I staying because this is genuinely good for me, or because I'm afraid of what I don't yet know? The third shift is small experimentation over dramatic decisions. The brain resists large decisions, so stop thinking about leaving as one giant leap. Start thinking about it as information gathering. Try one thing on the side. Have one conversation with someone who does work you find interesting. Read one book outside your current field. Behavioral psychology shows that small actions change beliefs more effectively than thinking alone. You don't think your way into a new life, you act your way, slowly, into a new understanding of what is possible. The fourth shift is understanding the difference between comfort and aliveness. Comfort is the absence of discomfort. Aliveness is the presence of genuine engagement. Your nervous system can tell the difference, even when your mind tries to rationalize them as the same thing. Pay attention to the moments in your week, inside or outside of work, when you feel genuinely present, not relaxed, not just not stressed, actually present. Those moments are data. They are pointing somewhere. The fifth shift is forgiving the time already spent. The sunk cost bias is real, but it can be interrupted. Every morning that you wake up is a new decision point. The 2 hours on the wrong trail are gone, but you are still standing. You still have legs. The question is not, how do I undo the past? The question is, given where I am right now, what direction makes the most sense? Cognitive behavioral research consistently shows that when people reframe decisions as present choices rather than reactions to past investments, their ability to act clearly improves significantly. Here's the mental model to hold on to. Think of your career not as a ladder you're climbing, but as a signal you are listening to. Every feeling of dullness, every moment of going through the motions, every Sunday evening dread, these are signals, not emergencies, signals. They are your nervous system telling you that something in the current environment is not in alignment with what you actually need. Smart people often override these signals because they trust their analysis more than their instincts, but the research suggests that the body keeps score long before the mind is ready to admit something is wrong. The dullness you feel is not irrational, it's information. You are not broken for being good at something you no longer want to do. You are not ungrateful for wanting more than stability. You are not reckless for wondering if there is something that would make you feel alive again. The brain's job is to keep you safe, and it is very good at that, sometimes too good. It will build very convincing cases for staying in places that are slowly emptying you out. That is not wisdom, that is fear wearing a suit. The question is not whether you should leave or stay. That is too large a question today. The question is simply this: are you willing to start listening honestly to what the signal is telling you? Because that's where everything begins, not in a dramatic decision, not in a leap of faith, in one honest moment of actually paying attention to yourself.